these things, and this is the circus, and that's that one.
Okay, so I'm going to come around and see that picture there. So they would take your picture as you went into the dance? Is that what happened?
Well, no, during the dance they would take your picture.
So, all right, Robert Thompson and June Eichler report to the big top.
May 6th, 51. That was the last one.
Now when you look at yourself, do you see yourself differently than you did at the time?
Yeah.
That's a picture of Aunt Helen and Uncle Walter.
Yes. And I have another one of them also.
Aw. Where did you get this picture from?
It was mine. I have always had it.
He was very handsome, wasn't he?
Yes, very.
Wow.
And he was a dirty blonde with a beautiful wave, so it really was.
It's hard to see, but it says May 6, 1950, and this is my Aunt Helen and my Uncle Walter, who is my mother's brother, and both of them have passed now.
The other one that I have is he set Dad up with a date for one night while we were dating, and the Zieglers. She's the one I always tell the story of putting the spaghetti across the pot, and it was bigger than the pot. So she let the two ends burn off, and then the spaghetti would sink into the pot.
Uh-huh.
And when I stood there watching her, I commented on it, and she said, "That's the way I always do it." So everybody always did it that way. This was it was a green gown and big and fluffy like that. And I had a terrible cyst on my back that every time anybody looked at me, it hemorrhaged. So Nana Dad saw it happen during the afternoon. He said he wasn't taking me. He wouldn't take me to the dance, and here I had all the equipment and everything. So Nana fixed it all up, and they even sent out formal invitations. But Nana fixed up my whole back and everything, and she put a great big Kotex pad across. It was between my shoulders, so that I wouldn't hemorrhage all over everything. So Dad spent the whole night, whenever we danced, protecting me, and in doing so we knocked over the admiral of the 3rd Naval District. This is Pickles. Fred Ziegler in the ring dance picture had set Dad up with her, and it was the only dance she went to and I didn't. But
Did that bum you out?
yeah, I guess so. Because we'd been dating pretty steadily at that point, but
I guess Pickles didn't, he definitely wasn't as into pickles, huh?
no, and he threw up all over.
Why, did he get so drunk?
Yeah. Okay, we got
Well, probably maybe Pickles bagged him, huh?
But,
So that's all your Merchant Marine stuff?
well, that's graduation in Merchant Marine. This is what I believe is actually Aunt Helen and Uncle Walter dancing right here.
Yeah, that looks like them.
And this is from his merchant marine days, and money and bills, wages, and he was an engine cadet, all sorts of.
Let me see that.
Sure.
So he got paid for stuff?
They got paid to go to Kings Point.
Wow, not only was it free, he got paid.
$70 a month, I believe it was.
Well, that's enough for a date, right? There's the Social Security tax being taken out. $2.31. Well, yeah, he made $165 between January 49 and February 49.
This is Navy stuff. Dad got his license for the Coast Guard at the time he graduated, and
160 pounds, 6 foot. I thought he was 6'4".
threes.
So why does it say 6'0"?
I don't know.
They just guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Born on July 21st, 1929.
Yeah.
Which makes him a younger man, Mom.
Younger man for what?
Than you.
I was always ashamed of that.
Really?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, the thing is now you realize how many people do have the younger men.
Yeah, I know it's younger also.
And, you know, they don't call a woman a cougar unless it's 8 years difference.
Dad was a professional engineer. He was not only an engineer, he was a licensed professional engineer.
Was that, he had to take a certain test to do
yes.
that? Okay.
Yes. And there's his thing to
Seal?
Seal, yes. And I just laid this out. I thought it was kind of fun for you. Here's something I'm rather proud of him. He was in the Navy. He served aboard the USS Leyte, and he was well respected and liked a lot, but they were down, I believe it was Guantanamo Bay, and the USS Leyte.
Wow. Why didn't you ever frame this?
I don't know.
That's really nice. Is it still in service now?
No.
And how did he get this?
The picture? I don't know how he got the picture, but he served aboard the ship. He was in the engine department. One of his crewmen, they were told to launch the boats, the small boats, to let the crew go aboard, to go ashore. And Dad had to assign a couple of his men to do that. And with the high seas and everything, the boat tipped, and one of his men was never recovered. This is a letter from the father of the young man that was lost at sea, and his body was never recovered, and it's a beautiful letter.
Wow. So it says, Dear Mr. Thompson, I want to thank you for your letter and sympathy. Tom felt, is that felt through the loss of our dear son, Hans, was that his name?
Yeah.
I want to thank, what's that? Um, and all the men which worked so hard to recover our son. Please thank the men in my name for the effort they made to recover our Hans. I wish I could thank each man personally for the gallant, voluntarily rescue work. I know everything possible was done to save Hans or to recover his body, but it was God's will Hans should be lost in the sea, and we have to accept it even if it is nearly too hard to bear it. Dear Hans always wanted to go to sea, and only my illness kept him back for the last year and a half. Dear Hans was, as he wrote in his last letter of February 25th, very happy in the Navy, and he was pleased with the work he was assigned to. I'm sure Hans would have been a good, dependable sailor, and we could have been proud of him. His work on the USS Leahy would have been in line of the trade he was learning. I thank you, Mr. Thompson, and all of the men again for all the effort put forth to save our boy. Very truly yours, Frank, I guess McGallis or Mitchell, and family. That is heartbreaking.
And to send it to the commanding officer that was in charge of sending the guy, it hurt Dad. Oh, he was crazy. He really, really suffered with that. But the lady was stationed up in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, near Wickford, and they went out on maneuvers, and the Nautilus was part of the maneuvers, the first atomic submarine, and they were doing their stuff and nearly sliced the Nautilus in half with their maneuvers and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know what you want. I don't know where to go.
Well, why don't I just ask the questions and then you kind of take it from
Good.
wherever,
Good.
Okay?
All right, that's good. That'll help.
So, and we may go general and then more specific later on.
Yeah.
So my question is, you met Dad, and basically Uncle Walter brought him home to dinner.
Uncle Walter brought him home for Labor Day weekend, the parade. Now, they were not allowed to stay overnight at any time, so they had to come out they were allowed out Saturday after the parade and everything, and then had to be back like at 6 o'clock or so. And then they were allowed out Sunday after church, and had to be back at 6 o'clock. And he did come home. He came home that weekend just for Labor Day to see the tournament and stuff. He just became a permanent fixture around the house, and he'd come home with Dad on weekend, with my brother on weekends, and it went that whole first year. They didn't go to any of the regimental dances or anything, but they served their second year at sea aboard cargo ships, and Uncle Walter was with U.S. Lines, big steamship company. Dad served his first 6 months on the Great Lakes, but it came to the last regimental dance before they were shipping out for this year at sea, and Uncle Walter went through his yearbook and decided to call Aunt Helen. They had gone to high school together but never dated, I mean, they were just different people in different places in their lives, even though they graduated together. And he called her. She was in nurses training, and asked her if she wanted to go, and she accepted. She was pleased. And then Uncle Walter took and handed Dad this yearbook and said, "Okay, now you pick somebody and we'll call her." And Dad said, "Well, I'll take your sister." And Uncle Walter's answer was, "You don't have to do that." So, but anyway, Dad was such a horser-arounder that he started talking about me going with him and everything. And I really didn't believe him. I thought he was pulling my leg. So it got to Thursday night. The dance was Saturday night, that Saturday night. And it got to Thursday night. And Uncle Walter calls up Nana and says, "Do you know that Bob is serious about taking June?" And Nana came to me, and fortunately, Garden City was open on Thursday nights, the stores. And we ran over there and we got this gorgeous dress. It was brown, and it started with dark brown at the bottom and gradually graded up to a beige at the top of it. And we bought bronze shoes to go with it that cost $60.
Wow.
Yes.
How did they have the money for that?
I was working at that point. No, I wasn't. I was in school. I don't know, but I got these bronze shoes.
Did you pay for them out of your money, or did they pay for them?
I think Nana must have paid for them. I wouldn't have had
Wow.
the money. Got all outfitted in one night and was ready for the dance.
Was this your first date ever?
First date ever?
I bet you're so excited.
Either one of us. Oh, it was, you see these pictures, and it was every girl's dream.
So he had, first date for Uncle Walter too?
Yes.
Okay. So, but Dad had dated in high school, right?
Not really. I know Uncle Dick talks about Mary Ann Love. And they were friends, not dating. He really didn't date.
People really delayed. I mean, even though they married so young,
Yeah.
the dating was so innocent for the most part, wasn't it?
You know, some of the girls in my high school married within weeks after graduating from high school.
Mm-hmm.
The dating started, it depended upon what kind of a person you were. And Dad and I certainly were not the leaders of the pack. We were...
But you're still married by the time you're 21?
I had just turned 22.
And Dad was 21?
Yes.
Wow, so you just think about, that, I just realized that picture over there, that's funny.
Oh. Dad was 21, no job. He had just graduated from school, had his degree and had his commission. He was an ensign in the Navy, and he had his Coast Guard license as an engineer on, I think it was a third-class license. I'm not exactly sure. And, but no job.
So you got married, and then he immediately went into the Navy for 2 years?
No, he worked for Western Electric.
For 6 months?
It was over a year.
Okay.
In fact, it was into 2 years because we lived in Brooklyn for a year in an apartment, 5th floor walk-up. And boy, you were huffing and puffing when you got up to the 5th floor.
You're probably probably in great shape though.
Yeah, and the laundry room was down in the basement,
Mm.
so you had to cart all the laundry down 5 flights of stairs. Dad always did that. Dad was beyond his time. He was so far ahead. He he did that kind of stuff without even thinking twice about.
I wonder if it's because his mother wasn't real strong that he kind of stepped up.
I don't think so, because his mother did everything. Uh, she was the real farm woman, as far as I know. Her lack of strength came after we were married. Probably most of it was after we got down to Florida.
So how come he didn't have to go into the Navy right away?
It wasn't his obligation. They did not sign up for 4 years to pay back or anything. What happened then was Dwight Eisenhower came in to be president. And he said all of these guys that have gotten free educations owe it to the country.
Which I could see.
I can too. Dad could too. So we were living in Levittown at that point, and
Were you renting?
yes,
Were you renting a Levitt house or just an
a
apartment?
Levitt house. Yeah.
Mhm.
One of the original Cape Cods, 114 Old Farm Road. And so Dad was, he was at this point was working for Grandma.
So he had already started working for Grumman.
Yes, before he went into the Navy.
What made him decide to move from Western Electric to Grumman?
He didn't like the commute into the city.
Oh, so you had been in, what, Brooklyn you said, or the Bronx?
Yes.
Brooklyn, where you didn't have the commute.
No.
Then you moved out, and you had the commute.
Yes.
Why did you move out?
5 floors got to us. Heaving the Christmas tree out the window 5 stories up, kind of.
Mhm.
The superintendent didn't want us to drag all of the needles down all of his flights of stairs, so he told us to throw it out the window, which was an interesting day. And so Dad went with Grumman, and Grumman at that point was very different than it is today, or in his last years there. It was very family-oriented, very caring, and that sort of thing. So it was a real coup to be hired by Grumman.
So it was in Bethpage, right?
Yes.
And how many people worked for Grumman at the time?
I have no clue.
But he was very excited.
Yes.
And what was he hired as? What was his title?
I don't remember.